an institution founded on the precept of a Viksit Bharat, a dream of many an entrepreneur a century ago. And in many ways, हिंदी में शब्द का प्रयोग है, अतिशयोक्ति नहीं होगी. It won't be an exaggeration to say one of the organizations that has become a fundamental pivot for India's economic growth, which is FICCI, and a fundamental part of FICCI in her 41st year, the FICCI Flow organization. And the president of this organization for the past year, Jyotiraditya Madhavrao, seated on the dais, President-elect Poonam Sharma ji, who I think understands the weight of the work done by the last president, considering the weight of the thesis that was handed over to him. Initiative head Shubhra Maheshwari ji, Senior Vice President-elect Pooja Garg ji, Executive Director Rashmi Sarita ji, Mitali Nikore ji, members of my valorous armed forces present here today, who I salute, those that protect the vanguards of our nation, allow us to sleep peacefully at night whilst they stay awake. All past presidents and members of FLOW present here this morning, and ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be invited to FLOW, an institution in its 41st year. And as I see the stars in the firmament seated before me, many of whom have been the seeds that have formed the illustrious encapsulation of this organization. An organization जो हिंदी में कहते हैं जो बीज बोया गया था 41 वर्ष पूर्व, जो आज वट वृक्ष के रूप में पूरे भारत को छाया दे रहा, और ये केवल महिलाओं को छाया नहीं दे रहा, संपूर्ण भारत को छाया दे रहा. And it's an event where I personally am very happy to be present in the form of a minority. Let me start with the words of a woman who once said that, and I quote, "Those hands that can rock the cradle can rule the world," unquote. जो हाथ पलने को झुला सकता है, वो हाथ विश्व पर राज कर सकता है. And these words, ladies, and a few gentlemen, are the words of a dedicated sevak, the words of a decisive leader, and the words of a very passionate nationalist. These are the words of my grandmother, Rajmata Jyotiraditya Scindia, who lived her life committed and dedicated to the cause of Bharat Mata, to the cause of the empowerment of women, to the cause of the improvement of the educational system in our country. And I'm truly honored today to be amongst so many of you that embody exactly that commitment and that dedication. Now, in the era of internet, AI, which is rapidly becoming a part of our everyday life, every single human across this world, it's fairly evident that no nation can truly rise on the basis of only half its population. Because it is when women rise that societies flourish. It is when women rise that industries thrive. And it is when women rise that nations ascend on the world stage. And our country, Bharat Mata, as we call her, women have been always a central part of our existence. Not today, not yesterday, but over 5,000 years. From governance to warfare, from knowledge to trade, intrinsically woven into the very fabric of our nation's existence. And our land has always revered the feminine force. Whether you talk about Shakti, Ma Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati. And these are not just deities that we pray to. They embody virtues. Virtues of power, virtues of prosperity, virtues of wisdom. And whereas on the one hand, we talk about our deities, women have always led and inspired people in our land. And history is replete with such examples. In my state of Madhya Pradesh, Rani Durgavati, who single-handedly led the fight against the Mughals and sacrificed her life, to the other inspiring warrior in my avatar today as Minister of the Northeast, Rani Gaidamlu, the fierce Naga warrior who fought against the British and sacrificed her life. These are heroes not only for the feminine force in our country, but I believe for the world to look upon and worship. And therefore today, whereas on the one hand, we look at the higher power in the form of our gods and goddesses. We look at humans who have inspired us. On the third front, when you look at nature, our rivers today in India are symbols of our feminine force. Ma Narmada, Ma Yamuna. And these are feminine forces not only in terms of symbolism, but they are feminine forces because they nourish every single citizen across the length and breadth of our land. And that symbolism is of motherhood. Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat. Without fear or favor. Without looking at any prism, equal for all. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you represent in the land that has always worshipped the feminine force. Now let's move forward to the India of today. Because this legacy continues into modern day India. Where on the one hand we have Ahilyabai Holkar, who brought about the cultural renaissance of our Sanskriti. To Sunita Williams, who has been able to achieve what no man has been able to achieve in space before. To Indra Nui, who has transformed a corporation. To Priyanka Radhakrishnan, the first minister of Indian origin in the New Zealand government. To Tulsi Gabbard, who today heads the most powerful intelligence organization on the planet. And closer to home, Draupadi Murmuji, who today is the President of India. And Nirmala Sitharamanji, who earlier protected our borders as Raksha Mantri and today protects India's purse as Finance Minister of India. And therefore, women in our country have helmed companies, have fostered innovation, have shaped policies. And this transformation that has taken place has been taken forward by a Prime Minister where economic progress has been linked to women's progress across the length and breadth of our country. Women empowerment in terms of economic empowerment, social empowerment, political empowerment. For the last 20 years, 2 decades, we heard about women empowerment in the political space. But it was he who brought about the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam bill, granting 33% reservation for women in every single political step across the length and breadth of our country. The Janadhana Yojana, 53 crore people in our country were provided bank accounts. And you'll be shocked to know that out of the 53 crore, 80% were women. And today, we have beat the global average of account empowerment of women of 68%. But crores of women across the length and breadth of our country still would use wood to cook their food. And being non-smokers would ingest the equivalent of 20 cigarettes a day in their lungs. It's only the Prime Minister thought of Ujjwala Yojana, provision of a gas stove and a free cylinder to over 12 crore women across the length and breadth of the country. When we talk about our Lakpati Didis, I read briefly the volumes that have been given to me of what Flow has been able to contribute. And Srimati Maheshwari ji converted 10,24,956 women that Flow has transformed into 1 lakh of a figure which I had to multiply by 10 to put the reality in front of you again.
Sir, no, anybody can get intimidated.
Not at all. Not you for sure. It's I who am intimidated in this gathering. But that's the capability. 1 crore Lakpati Didis have been empowered across the length and breadth of our country. Another shocking statistic that I want to give you, because in my earlier avatar that was spoken about by Srimati Maheshwari ji as Minister of Civil Aviation, across the world, every country has only 5% of their pilots being women. It is India and India alone that has 15% of our pilots being women. And now that has gone forward. I remember when we introduced drones in India, the Prime Minister called me and gave me 2 direct targets. Number 1, I want India to become the drone capital of the world by 2030. And number 2, I want a majority of our drone pilots being women. So today we have 15,000 SAGs, of which our women are today piloting drones. So while the Kisan is plowing the field, the seeding, the fertilizer sprinkling, and that's the capability that we have to take forward today. I want to give you 2 examples of how I was completely moved. And this goes to what Mitali ji just raised in her address, of how women are creating disruptive shifts and paradigm shifts across the length and breadth of our country. The first example is of Adule Sape, a Kiwi farmer in the state of Nagaland. About 5 months ago, I set up a Northeast Agri-Commodity Portal called NERIS. And when we talk about digitalization, today Aduli is selling her kiwis that she grows in Nagaland across the world using the Neras portal. And you combine that capability with my earlier avatar as Minister of Civil Aviation, where we introduced Krishi Udan, where in the belly of aircrafts for perishable commodities, we introduced a new scheme at rock bottom rates. Her kiwis are going in the bellies of my aircraft all the way internationally from Nagaland, sitting in her village using the Neras portal. And the other example in my home area of Gwalior Chambal. I was once visiting Rajgarh district and I was talking to a group of women SAGs. And I met this lady and I asked her about how she got passionate about setting up an SAG. She said, घर में और कमाई करनी थी तो हम और 10 और औरतें हमारे गांव से हम लोग मिल गए, बछड़े, गाय, बकरियों को लेकर दूध की उत्पादन की फैसिलिटी हमने शुरुआत की, लेके हम लोग हाट में और मार्केट में हम लोग जाके कोऑपरेटिव्स को हम लोग बेचते थे। 5 साल पहले हमने शुरुआत की, 5 years में। तो ऐसे कितनी महिलाएं थी? हम लोग 10 थी, हमने शुरुआत की साथ। अच्छा, आज कितनी महिलाएं? Anyone wants to take a guess? 100. I've got 100. Anyone else? 5,000. 10,000 women in her SH. 10,000 women. She's going to be the next Amul. No, I'm not kidding. Another example. 2,500 women in my constituency in Kolaras, part of district Shivpuri, make jackets. Quality is international level. Today, through digital connectivity, they're selling their jackets across the world. I've taken an industrial group through their CSR initiative. We are setting up an industrial level factory where 1,500 of them with sewing machines and with technology and getting connected digitally will make an enterprise out of their business. Our force of women power is unstoppable. And a huge element of that lies in the Northeast. I've looked at the various studies that you all have done. The Northeast is a matrilineal society. Women have been at the core of every social, political, economic initiative for generations. And the capability of the Northeast is tremendous across the board. And therefore, I would like to first of all commend Flo in terms of the steps that you've taken, especially focusing on the Northeast. We heard on this dais about issues of connectivity. Digital, physical, financial. As far as digital connectivity is concerned, I want to give my commitment to you. every single village by August, September of this year will have 4G connectivity in the Northeast. The Prime Minister has said 100% saturation. Today, 99% of our districts, 773 out of 776, have 5G coverage. And those that do not have 4G or 5G, we are building 27,000 towers, of which 15,000 are already functioning and radiating. And the balance will be built by August, September of this year. And therefore, every inch of not the Northeast, but every inch of India will be covered by connectivity, telecom connectivity, by the end of August, September this year. And the same stands for broadband connectivity. The Prime Minister has very clearly enunciated 5 years ago that what the Industrial Revolution did to the world 100 years ago, the digital revolution is going to do to the world today, is already doing so. So where you looked at a physical highway, you're now looking at a digital highway. And India is undertaking the largest government-funded broadband connectivity program in the history of the world. $16 billion program to connect every single Gram Panchayat across our country, 380,000 villages on demand, every school and hospital on a Panchayat level with 25 Mbps broadband connectivity through amended BharatNet. So our goal on digital connectivity, and the same for physical connectivity. 10 years ago, we had only 9 airports in the Northeast. Today, we have 17 airports in the Northeast. We must use Guwahati, we must use Agartala as the launch pad for connectivity across Southeast Asia. And you'll be shocked to know that flying time from Agartala or Guwahati to Mumbai or Chennai is the same as flying to Singapore, to Bangkok or to Jakarta. And that is going to be the aim of our connectivity initiative in the coming years. Every single state is going to be connected by railways. We built 1,900 kilometers of railway lines. We have 19 projects underway, 85,000 crores on railway projects. The Northeast had 10,000 kilometers of national highways. In 10 years, we today have 16,000 kilometers of national highways. And we are going to construct an international gateway because the Northeast was part of the trade corridor of the world. From the global Southeast Asia, all the way through the Northeast, to the Middle East, and on to Europe. And that destiny of India is going to be recreated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And therefore, Joyshri ji, because you're from the Northeast will not be the last frontier of India. The Northeast will become the first frontier of India. Today I stand before you. Baba Sahib Ambedkar once said that I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress that the women have achieved. And India today is well on its path of not only women empowerment, but women leadership. We must no longer talk about inclusivity. We must talk about leadership of women. It is part of the Panch Pran that Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi has articulated. And in that vein, if I may urge, I'm actually quite surprised to hear that in the 41st year of flow, we have only 20 chapters. What's taking you guys so long? And when I asked the president-elect, she said we have a quota system of only one per year. Come on, guys. You've got to be in 776 districts of this country. There must be a flow chapter in every district of this country. All quotas within flow should be abolished. Quotas should only be now for men. And you must gallop. So let's make a new beginning. And my request to you is this year, you must start with at least 20 chapters, double yourself every single year. And in that process, please include my Gwalior. I'll be the first to stand at the airport doorstep to welcome you with a garland. And therefore today, not only do I feel privileged, but I certainly do believe that in this journey of India, and I love the title of that book that you have presented to me, that women will lead India to the Viksit Bharat of 2047. Because I believe that when women lead, Bharat doesn't just progress. My Bharat will soar when women will lead. Thank you very much for having me.